We have already seen that human beings live their lives in the lower reaches of the atmosphere. Our bodies are used to the temperatures, pressures and supply of oxygen that prevail there. In our normal existence, we are exposed to the normal gravitational force or acceleration, which we sense through the weight of our body. Unless we have a very high-powered job, our bodies do not have to function under conditions of abnormal stress or very high workloads. The judgments and decisions we take from minute to minute do not normally determine whether we live or die. And if we are taking medically prescribed drugs or medicines, we can usually carry on as normal. These conditions and assumptions, which apply to our everyday life on the ground, do not always hold true when we are piloting an aircraft. While steady cruising flight at low or medium altitudes imposes no unusual conditions or stresses on our bodies, flight at high altitude, over 10,000 feet, and the practice of aerobatics, exposes the body to conditions and forces not met on the ground. Cockpit workload can be high, especially in an emergency or bad weather, or in critical phases of flight, such as landing or flying on instruments. Pilots, therefore, need to learn how the human body reacts, both physiologically and psychologically, to the effects of stress, altitude, and variations in G-forces, etc. The safe and efficient pilot, therefore, needs a good basic understanding of how the human body functions under normal conditions, and under conditions it may be subject to, and stresses it may have to endure in flight. In Human Performance and Limitations, our study of the body will concentrate on the functioning of three of its principal systems: the nervous system, the respiratory system, and the circulatory system. The nervous system is the most highly developed and delicate of all the body's systems. It correlates and controls all the other systems of the body through a type of electrochemical communications network of nerve fibers. At the centre of the nervous system is the brain, through which we control all purposeful bodily functions, including decision-making and speech, and where we experience consciousness, vision, hearing, taste, smell, thought, and memory. In Human Performance and Limitations, our study of the nervous system will mainly be concerned with vision, hearing, balance, situational awareness, decision-making, and stress tolerance. But first of all, it will be useful to consider briefly the nervous system's general architecture. The nervous system is divided into three main parts. The central nervous system consists of the brain and the spinal cord. It is the brain which analyzes and interprets the sensory data fed into it from the rest of the nervous system. The peripheral nervous system connects the central nervous system to the various organs and muscles of the body through sensory nerves and motor nerves. The peripheral nervous system regulates all the purposeful and reflex actions carried out by the body's organs and muscles. Sensory impulses travelling towards the brain have their beginnings in various peripheral structures such as the skin, muscles, joints, and special organs like the eye and the ear. The senses of sight and hearing are so important to pilots that they will be considered in dedicated lessons. Other functions regulated by the autonomic nervous system are arterial pressure, gastrointestinal motions, urinary output, sweating, body temperature, and fight or flight response or reaction to stress. We shall return to the nervous system when we cover vision, hearing, balance, situational awareness, making decisions, and stress tolerance. In order to function correctly, oxygen is required by all the cells and tissues of the body. For example, brain cells will die if they are deprived of oxygen for as little as 2 minutes. It is the respiratory system which, through the act of breathing, ensures the transference of oxygen from the atmosphere to the cells and tissues, and of carbon dioxide from the tissues back to the atmosphere. Nitrogen is also absorbed by the body during respiration, but plays no role in bodily processes. It does play an important role, however, in the onset of decompression sickness. External respiration is the absorption of oxygen from the air into the blood, and the excretion of carbon dioxide from the blood into the air. This takes place in the lungs. Internal or tissue respiration refers to the transfer of oxygen from the blood to the tissues of the body. At the same time as this occurs, the tissues give up carbon dioxide to the blood. We can see then that the blood circulation system, which we shall be considering later, plays a vital role in the respiratory process. Normal breathing is a purely automatic process under the unconscious control of the nervous system, although for short periods the rate and depth of respiration can be controlled at will. The normal rate of respiration in adults is 14 to 18 breaths a minute. The respiratory centre is especially sensitive to the amount of carbon dioxide in the blood. The level of carbon dioxide in the blood effectively regulates the rate and depth of breathing so that the concentration of carbon dioxide in the blood remains constant. We shall return to the subject of respiration in the lesson on effects of partial pressure, where, amongst other things, we will learn about the effects of altitude, hypoxia, hyperventilation, and the effects of rapid decompression. In order to function properly, indeed in order to live at all, the organs and tissues of our body must receive an adequate supply of nourishment and oxygen, and be able to expel the waste products which result from their activities. This vital process is carried out by the blood. The blood circulation, or circulatory system, is the mechanism that maintains the constant circulation of blood throughout the body. This mechanism consists of the heart and the various types of blood vessels. The heart is located in the chest cavity. It is about the size of a clenched fist and is the powerhouse or pump of the circulatory system. A section through a human heart is shown on the screen. The heart has 4 chambers, 2 ventricles, 2 auricles or atria. The auricles or atria act as receiving chambers for the pump, and the ventricles are the distributors which propel the blood through the lungs and circulatory system. The aorta is the main artery of the body and is the channel through which the blood leaves the left ventricle. Leading into and out of the heart are various blood vessels, the arteries, which carry blood from the heart at high pressure, and the veins, which return blood to the heart at low pressure. In the diagram on the left, the arteries are coloured red and the veins are coloured blue. As the heart itself is a muscle, it requires its own blood supply system, which is provided by the coronary arteries and veins. A narrowing or blockage of the coronary arteries or veins is the cause of one of the major diseases which may affect the heart. Oxygen is obtained from the atmosphere, and the blood picks up the oxygen from the lungs for transport around the body. Blood containing oxygen is pumped around the body from the left ventricle. A system of one-way valves in the heart prevents blood going the wrong way. The oxygenated blood passes through the aorta into the major arteries, which divide into the smaller arteries before arriving at the smallest vessels of the system, the capillaries. The capillaries have very thin walls, only 1 cell thick, which allow the passage of oxygen from the blood into the tissues by diffusion. They also allow carbon dioxide and water vapour to diffuse in the reverse direction. It is emphasized that this exchange can only take place at the capillaries. Even the smallest arteries and veins have walls too thick to allow the exchange of gases. Deoxygenated blood passes from the venous capillaries to veins, which progressively increase in size, and returns eventually to the right atrium. It then passes to the right ventricle, which pumps the blood via the pulmonary artery to the lungs. The carbon dioxide and water in the blood are released to the lungs, and at the same time the blood is reoxygenated. The blood then returns to the heart via the pulmonary vein and left auricle. It is then pumped back into the aorta by the left ventricle. Each time the left ventricle contracts, it forces blood into the aorta, causing a wave or expansion to spread over the whole of the arterial system, gradually dying away as it reaches the capillaries. This wave or expansion constitutes the pulse, which can be felt in the superficial arteries of the body. The normal rate of the pulse is the rate of the heartbeat. A healthy adult at rest has a pulse rate of between 60 and 80 beats per minute. This rate is increased by exercise, emotional disturbances, and disease. For instance, when the body experiences stress or fear, adrenaline is released into the bloodstream, causing an immediate increase in the pulse rate.